The highest compliment I give a piece of music is when I call it a masterpiece. I don't do it very often, a couple times a year. And I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to call Tall Tales by Mark Pritchard, Thom Yorke, a masterpiece. However, I am going to call Tall Tales by Mark Pritchard, Thom Yorke, and Jonathan Zawada an artistic masterpiece. The music itself alone is excellent, truly amazing. I'm not sure if it earns my highest possible compliment, but taken in conjunction with the paratext that's around it, the zine, a zine, seriously, the zine and the movie made by Jonathan Zawada in conjunction with these two other artists in clear symbiosis, that's how you say that word, all together, it is a masterpiece of storytelling, of artistic contemplation, a zeitgeist defining, or at least zeitgeist describing piece of art about, I don't know, authenticity, artistic creation, frailty, fear, uncertainty of the future. So I use that word paratext, and I want to go into it a little bit because, listen, you're watching an always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor, so why not actually get into what I mean when I say paratext? Well, it is everything that is around the text. That's what para means, right? It means like around it. It was actually a French literary critic named Gerard Genet, who I don't always love his stuff, but I really like this work, where he describes, quote, a literary work consists exhaustively or essentially of a text in a more or less lengthy sequence of verbal utterances, more or less containing meaning. I would say for a piece of music that the piece of music, is a more or less lengthy sequence of notes and timing containing meaning. But this text, I continue the quote, rarely appears in its naked state, without the reinforcement and accompaniment of a certain number of productions, themselves verbal or not, like the author's name, a title, a preface, illustrations. One does not always know if one should consider that they belong to the text or not, but in any case they surround it and prolong it precisely in order to present it, in the usual sense of this verb, but also in its strongest meaning, to make it present, to assure its presence in the world, its reception and its consumption in the form, nowadays at least, of a book. Or I guess we could say, of an album. So that's how I see all of this together. And the movie is now on YouTube. I don't know if the zine is. Full disclosure, the PR firm for Mark Pritchard reached out to me and gave me early access to this. And I really appreciate it because I knew I was going to be talking about this album, and I wanted as much time as possible. I want as much time as possible to really spend with it while also commenting on it in a time which will help to build up the excitement for those of you like me who are just getting into this album and just appreciating it. So this paratext really helps to deepen the things that are in the music. And Thom Yorke is no stranger to paratext. I mean, so much of, I think, what makes In Rainbow so great is the artwork of Stanley Donwood. Now, that album is in and of itself a masterpiece. It doesn't need Stanley Donwood to do that, but the bright colors and abstract imagery, I mean, it's built into it. Almost everything that Thom Yorke does has some kind of paratext that helps to further explain it and show what it is. But this collaborative project, I don't know. I think it does it as well as he's ever done it, if not the best. So, what are the themes of this album? And what I think is interesting, I've been doing my best. This is just a hobby I picked up in the lobby. I am a full-time professor. I'm not on music cricket or anything like that. But I have been noticing there are certain trends, especially in post-punk music, where it used to be a couple years ago, the main themes that I was seeing repeated over and over again are the themes of de-evolution, that like we as humans are kind of devolving into something worse than what we were, that we are like literally becoming like cavemen, which makes sense because we're increasingly being tribalized and turning into good and bad camps. You either love the Red Sox or the Yankees, Kendrick or Drake, Trump or Clinton, like all these kinds of really bad for humanity type tribalism stuff. But over the last couple of years, what I've seen is a change. And that appears to be a real emphasis and fascination with reality, what is real and what is fake. Now the album, the easiest paratext in the world, is the title of the thing. which is why sometimes artists will call things untitled, because they don't want you to have paratext for the thing they're presenting to you. They just want you to look at the thing, listen to the thing, see the thing. And of course, ironically, that in and of itself is paratext, because calling something untitled indicates an artistic desire to not be titled. I'm not going to get into that. Did you know I majored in art history? It's true. I'm a French professor, but I'm going to get into my art history bag here. But the title, Tall Tales, that's a term which refers to a false story. A story that has some grain of truth in it, but is exaggerated to the point of being absolute falsehood. It's not the same thing as a lie. It's not the same thing as a fabrication from nothing. It is an exaggeration, a tall tale. And that's the world that we live in right now. We live in the... Do you know how messed up we are? The term fake news was actually created to describe something that was happening in 2016, where there were bad actors literally creating news that did not exist to help push a political narrative. In that case, to promote Donald Trump. And then that same person, Donald Trump, took the term fake news. He took the actual term that described what third parties were doing on his behalf, and he captured it. He captured the term and repurposed it to apply to anything that was said about him, which may have been true or may have been exaggerated. He totally took the term. Just the term fake news itself is now fake news, because the way that it's used is just things that aren't necessarily true, like maybe rumors or something, as opposed to what it was, which was a sophisticated attack on the integrity of the American voting population by another country. And now it has a different word. The term fake news itself is a victim of fake news. That's the world we live in. And obviously, we live in this world of AI. It is hard to figure out how much of this art is AI. I've seen people call it AI. I've seen people say that it's not. I have read articles about it. This is how I think about how much of this is AI. Are you ready? Let me tell you the percentage. Shut up. It's shut up percentage. That's how much percentage of this work by Jonathan Zawada is AI. Either it's not AI at all, in which case it is an amazing counterfeit of how a lot of AI feels, or it is AI and it's done with very careful, very intentional premeditation by somebody who's not trying to get around having to make art, but somebody who is working with these tools that are being given to us that are of questionable use. The counterfeiting, like an album that is largely about what is true and what is not true, what is good, what is not good, what is real, what is not real. It has to, in 2025, either include AI or consciously not include AI. I'm sorry, A1. Okay, artificial intelligence. We don't know what's real, what's not. It's easier than ever to fake things. It's easier than ever to feel duped. We have never had more access to information and to research and to scientific fact. We've never been a better informed species than we are right now. Yet we appear to be the most misled, misinformed time in the history of our species. So I don't know. Hey, I don't know. I didn't make existence. Don't blame me. I'm just talking about a guy I'm just talking about a couple of guys, a few guys who are describing this thing that we are seeing. But let's get to an example of it, right? Let's talk about the other big piece of paratext that one can have. I'm going to try and use my new shiny feature here. By the way, if my video ever cuts out super abruptly, I promise you I will include a link in the description to part 2. I have limited my computer. I don't know how to use my computer. I'm sorry. So that might happen. It might not. I don't know. So let's see. Let's see this album cover. Let's see if I can actually do this. Hey, where'd I go? Yeah, but still, where'd the lighter fluid come from? All right, let's talk about this. So this is the album cover, right here. I'm not gonna do that anymore. And it's a pretty important piece of art and a pretty important piece of paratext. It includes this image of Rodin's thinker. Maybe the most famous sculpture in the history of civilization, maybe after David. One thing a lot of people don't know is there's multiple copies of it because it was cast in bronze, right? So like you can make many copies of it. So you might have said, oh, I've seen that, but it wasn't in this place or it wasn't in that place. It's all over the place. It's important for a few reasons that I'm going to get into. And before I go any further, my brother, who is an artist, has insisted every time we talk about the thinker, make sure if you ever imitate the thinker pose, you have to go across, you have to go right arm to left leg, because that shows off the muscle, because it was this wrestler, Jean Baud, who was the model, and he's a very muscular guy, to show the musculature. Okay, so make sure you go across body when you're imitating the thinker. It's an image of the thinker, but it's a weird one, because it's like, why is it all cut up and mixed up? Is this some kind of AI image of the thinker by Rodan? Why is it like this? That's where you need the other paratext of the zine. So the zine is this piece of art made like a zine, black and white, with writing and pictures, kind of rough. And it's all made by the same artist who did this, Jonathan Zawada, who did the movies. Okay, this guy is definitely 1/3 of this project. I mean, I'm almost tempted to say he might even be half. I don't think so. I think that would probably annoy him, but not the other two guys. But it's so much of what makes this such an interesting project, because he tells the story in the zine of this particular edition of the Thinker. This particular edition of the Thinker was stolen from a garden and taken by thieves, and it was like just thrown in the back of a truck or something, and it was moved all over the place, and it fell apart. And I'll move all the way over here, and that's why it's like all messed up. That's why it's all cut up, because it goes all the way back to a time when it was just taken, and even the left leg is completely amputated because it was melted down, because it was more valuable for the material that it had. And that ties into all these themes that the album, that the zine is going to go into, like about how a sculpture of King George was melted down in Boston or New York or whatever during the Revolutionary War and turned into bullets that were then used to shoot at the British. Or this other guy, Jacob Epstein, who did a sculpture of sort of the futuristic man after World War I. And he's like built on an industrial drill, and he destroyed his own sculpture because he realized this weird hybrid of human and machine, it wasn't some kind of fantastical imaginary thing. It was actually what the world was going to become. Message, that's what the world is going to become. All of this is all in here together, so that when you see the thinker, you need to understand that it is this thinker, and it's the question of reproduction of imagery. Is this the real thinker? Yes. Is it a fake thinker? Yes, because it's reproduced already. And then it's an abused thinker. It's broken up. It's the figure itself is used allegorically to represent the pain of thought, the pain of human existence. If you don't know, the original is found on a whole series of imagery called The Gates of Hell by Rodan. And he's sitting there at the gates of hell, like in front of the gates of hell, sitting there and thinking, this is the contemplation that kills us and that makes us go crazy. This is basically the position from which Thom Yorke sings most of the time, sitting there and maybe not quite as jacked, sitting there and thinking and meditating on the nature of existence and seeing that behind him and all around him is hell. So that's all there, everybody. That's all there in the paratext. And it absolutely makes the album itself more interesting and more meaningful when you understand the levels that they're working at. Now, obviously, this is not just simply an image of Rodin's thinker. There's all these little things around it. Okay, you have your top left and your bottom right, and if you watch the movie, you'll recognize all of these things as being scenes from the movie. I'll talk about the movie in a second, but in particular, to the far left over there, you have the walking bird. So it's a bird with a hat with a feather in its cap, carrying a stick and a bindle, a wandering bird going all over existence. And you also have in the bottom there a fish. A dead fish with smaller fish in its mouth. which feels to me like just a Thom Yorke lyric, all about the dirty nature of capitalism. But it's also all tied in together, I believe, into the world of Hieronymus Bosch. So you know Hieronymus Bosch, you know the Garden of Earthly Delights. I'm not even going to show you the whole painting because, there's a whole lot to see there, but we could just take an example. Oh my God, look at how slick that was. Now, it's not slick. I never know how to look at the camera when I'm doing this, but I'm getting there, everybody. This image here is an image of a hellish, demon-y bird figure eating somebody with a poker in their butt. All right, this is what's going to happen, everybody. This is what's going to happen if you use AI to write your final. Okay? If you have a final paper, I'm a professor, I'm telling you, if you have a final paper and you use ChatGPT, this is what's going to happen to you. I don't make the rules. God makes the rules. Okay? Anyways, this kind of unsettling humanistic bird is a very Boschian figure. And I actually think a better comparison is from a different painting by him, The Temptation of St. Anthony, with this guy, this little walking bird with a funny hat. I think it's all tied in. And what does it mean to be Boschian? What does it mean? It's this uncanny place that he creates. That's what it is. Uncanny is when things feel familiar but unfamiliar at the same time. All right? In German, it's unheimlich, which means unhomelike. Freud described it a lot. No offense to any psychologists out there, but that's what Freud said. Bosch is able to create these paintings and these images with little tiny figures kind of lost in a hellish scape. I mean, it's filled with fire and brimstone and pain and pokers and butts and all that stuff. Pokers and butts and everything nuts. But it serves a moralistic tone, obviously trying to put you on the right path, but it's also surreal as hell. It's also like, bro, he was tripping balls. How many times have I seen people talk about Hieronymus Bosch and they just go, dude, he was tripping balls. That's all they say. I mean, Hieronymus Bosch was not tripping balls, but he did know how to create that image. How to tap into that psychedelic surrealism hundreds of years ago. And let's not forget, maybe the most important thing is it's rad. Hieronymus Bosch is rad. His art is rad. It's super cool and weird and funny, and it stands the test of time. But what he's ultimately showing and describing is this place where things feel real and unreal. That's what it is to be uncanny. They feel real and unreal. That's what it is to look at AI art. It feels real and unreal. That's what it is to look at Hieronymus Bosch. It's real and unreal, and it's hellish. When you look at AI art, you feel uncomfortable and unhappy. That's how you feel. Tell me I'm wrong. The primary emotion that most non-fascists get when looking at AI art is an overwhelming sense of unhappiness. Unease. So what if you could create music, art, movies, etc. that comment on that in a way which helps us to understand the Boschian existence of 2025? The Boschian existence with Rodin's thinker. Rodin's thinker is sitting up there and he's thinking about existence, and what's happening is the gates of hell behind him, but it's not beautiful 19th century bronze. It's like, what was Bosch? 15th century? 15th century or 1500s. Point is, many centuries ago. Apologies to my art history teachers. Sorry, Dr. Lane. But that's what he sees. The thinker sees Hieronymus Bosch behind him. And that's what they're describing. And that's what makes this album a freaking masterpiece. Especially when you tie it in. Okay, I have to turn this off now. Hey, maybe I'll say, no, I'm not going to do that. Okay. All right. Maybe, I don't edit my videos, by the way. Did I just mute? I did not mute myself, did I? No, wait. Did I mute myself? No, I did not. So on top of that, we have the zine, and it's great, and it tells all sorts of stories about lighthouses and metallurgy and fakes and not fakes. I don't know how they're going to make that zine available, but I will tell you, I want to get it when it is available. And then we have the movie. The movie is available on YouTube, which is great. It's all made by Jonathan Zawada, and it's based around the idea of that little bird guy. who's essentially like a video game character. It's basically like Donkey Kong Country. If you never played Donkey Kong Country, that's a great game. Not Frozen Ape, like the original one. So Donkey Kong Country, the overworld map is like just this little island, and you see your little character go from one world to another. I know they did that in Super Mario World as well, but it's way better the way they did it in Donkey Kong Country, and that's how this feels. Because you just kind of walk over and then you look up. And so you have this little bird who walks over from song to song to song to song. My favorite thing is I watched this with my 19-year-old son, who's a big Thom Yorke fan, and my 2-year-old daughter. And every time the bird popped up, the 2-year-old kind of laughed. And I would just say the same thing. Like when you watch it, imagine the video. After the song ends, the little video game bird pops up and just goes, okay, I guess that was that then. I'll go over here. Like that's how the whole thing feels. And I'm going to talk to you about this beautiful, hellish, uncanny landscape where nothing is certain to be real as I get into the album. Because that's the only way to talk about it. I'll talk about each video with each song. Importantly, I was shared a link of the video with a different track listing. So my perception of the video and the album is all messed up. Because I listened to it first with like different with a different track list, and now that I've listened to the actual track list, it passes the track list test. It passes the shuffle test. It is an album in full that really works all together and needs to be listened to all together as one project, the way that it was intended and released. So the version that I first watched is the inferior version to the final version because the tracks need to work. Now, what about the music? What about this Mac Pritchard guy? I'm sorry, his name just sounds so Boston to me. Not just because Boston has a basketball player named Peyton Pritchard, but just Mac Pritchard, like fucking Mac, Tommy, and Johnny Z. They put out some hot dude. It's very funny. It's restrained and good. Like there's a few dancey bits, a few down bits, but really it's just super like there's a subtlety and I hate to say this word because it's a loaded word filled with classism, but it's very tasteful. The whole thing is very tasteful. It's using electronic music in a way that is not always going for the easy pump up or the easy freak out. It's just very well made and very well constructed, very subtle. This is weird because last week at this time, I was reviewing a very popular artist, JPEG Mafia, and his maybe unexpected collaboration with an Australian electronic dance producer named Flume. And here I am reviewing Thom Yorke, an influential rock star with an Australian artist. I know he was born in England, but he lives in Australia. And Jonathan Zawada is from Australia. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with Australia collaborating, Australian electronic artists collaborating with more popular pop, rock, and rap artists, but I don't know. The thing I would say that Mark Pritchard does maybe better than anybody, maybe better than Nigel Godrich, maybe better than any other of the people who Thom Yorke has worked with, might be the best production of his voice. Like, Thom Yorke enjoys distorting his voice, enjoys making you feel uncomfortable with it, enjoys pitching it and all that and layering it. But there's something about the depth of production here, the playfulness, but at the same time, like the seriousness. I don't know what it is, but this might be the most I've ever enjoyed Thom Yorke's voice. Speaking of Thom, hey, do you know my favorite piece of Thom Yorke music from the 2010s? It's his guest appearance on Mode Selector. Have you ever heard this? Have you ever heard the song Shipwreck by Mode Selector and Thom Yorke? God damn, it's good. He is so good. When they work together, they are super great. They got 2 songs on here. And I just say that to say that one of my favorite things about Thom Yorke, there's this joke that all actors want to be musicians and all musicians want to be actors. That's not true with Thom Yorke. He just wants to be an electronic dance guy. He just wants to be Aphex Twin. He wants to be Aphex Single. That's really what he wants. And I love it because I love his individual projects. I love his solo work. I love this. I love San Dimas. Like, I love all of that. And I'm obviously the biggest Radiohead fan in the world, so I want him to be doing Radiohead. But his side projects are always so unbelievably good that I'm never upset that they're there instead of Radiohead. I feel like this album has a lot of heart. It maybe doesn't quite pack the emotional punch that he has on other projects. You know, even with The Smile, he will just sometimes hit these emotional notes that are just heartbreaking. Maybe I need more time with the album, but he's definitely in his lyrical bag, talking about things that matters to him. But maybe that's my one thing, is there were less times where I just felt like that bending, hectic sense of just like, oh. This album, though, also, and this is an important test, I listen to albums all over the place. I listened to this album in the car twice, headphones maybe 4 or 5 times, and then I listened to him yesterday while making pancakes. You know, I'm in my house, and I cook with my 2-year-old, and she puts on a little chef's hat. It's cute. And it really passes the pancake test. You know, you just put it on the Bluetooth and just really just play it and listen. I'm really surprised that it did. All right, so let's get into the album, shall we? What are we, 26 minutes in there? Good coffee. I'm not quite sure if this is all filming the way I want it to. Is this not even... Where am I? What happens if I do this? That makes me very uncomfortable. I was able to do that. I'm sorry. If something just changed dramatically, I apologize. Or not. We'll have to see how this looks. I can't restart it because my 2-year-old is about to wake up. So let's start off with the album with a fake in a faker's world. And I love this because it starts off with the kick drum pattern of It's Not Unusual by Thom Jones. Doom, 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 doom. It's not unusual. Wait, what's this? Not unusual to be loved by anyone. Oh my God, did that just change again? Oh man. This is some unprofessional videography. This is all on purpose. This upbeat bass line, kind of simple hi-hat, this drum machine, kind of like a melting sound with the ticks and the compressed keyboards. Very nice, like a nice bass line played on this keyboard. There's this kind of like urgency to the keyboard work as well. This is where, you know, the first time you listen to an album by Thom Yorke, I always like to have fun thinking about what I think he's saying. So I thought he said, a spaceman on Mardi Gras playing basketball. So I thought it'd be fun to make an Instagram reel of that. So I did. I made an Instagram reel of that. It's all love. It's all fun. And then Mark Pritchard liked my Instagram reel, which means there's a more than zero chance that Thom Yorke himself saw me making fun of him. To which I say, hey, I'm sorry. Did you know that I have a black velvet painting that of Thom Yorke? Bruce White is a great artist out of North Carolina who does these kinds of fun modern iconography, and I commissioned him to make a Thom Yorke for my son. So anyways, I apologize if you saw that. It's all love. I've been mishearing Thom Yorke lyrics for over 30 years now. The real lyric is, a space for some more to come, a click and a thudding hum, a fake in a faker's world, a bridge that won't run across, our day will come. I think this is all about the way that we are. To be real in today's civilization is very difficult and maybe useless and meaningless because it is a faker's world. It is a world filled with people who are faking and fakes. And that's just the world that is being described here. I love how warm it changes halfway through, and they somehow manage to make it feel like a jam. It's computer music. It's a couple of dudes going blips and bloops and ones and zeros, but it actually feels like a jam. In that way, I would give it the highest compliment you can give any electronic music. It was Kraftwerkian. It was Kraftwerkian in the way that it felt like it was computers jamming together. And again, the video is absolutely essential. The parext is absolutely essential. Hey. Hi. Not this one. Not this one. This one. Here, can I? Oh, I see what's happening. When I do that, that moves that over there. You know, I'll just put that there. That's good. I'll be over here. Yeah, I'll be over here. Hi. Hi. How's it going? That way you can still see the birds. You know, this is essential because it's the image that I think. This is one of the essential images of the album. There's a version of this on the cover as well. It's a computer painting a landscape, but the way that it goes in the video throughout is it starts off with kind of a Rothko, like two rectangles, kind of abstract, and they're all painting the same thing. Eventually it becomes almost like thousands of computer arms making a landscape that's also a face in the style of Dali. And then it gets super abstract and it's brushstrokes until at the end the computers are painting all different things with different styles, and it's actually kind of interesting and actually kind of cool, and it's actually kind of good art, because we are going to be entering the time when AI art is actually kind of good, actually. And what's going to happen when we do there, when we have all these fakes in the faker's world? Sweet. I think I'm figuring this stuff out, everybody. And then we get to the song Ice Shelf. Can I make a prediction? Okay. I think someone went to ChatGPT and said, give me the most Thom Yorke song title possible. It popped up, Ice Shelf, because he's been singing about the polar ice caps melting for 30 years now. Well, no, 27 years. Anyway, whatever, since at least 25 years. The gloaming sense of fear that we have about global warming, which many people don't feel, but we all should. This ghostly backwards sounds and this aspiration cycling left to right. There's this cool like left to right vocalizing sounds. There's a certain point here where it feels like you are hearing the last sounds you are going to hear before you are swarmed by robot zombies. Okay, like zombies, like imagine if zombies could be robots and they're swarming you. That's the sound that this goes into. Beautiful sounds. And then we have to talk about, watch how quickly I do this. We have to talk about the artwork too. You know, we have to talk about the video. This is an image from the video of just this porthole where you see this ocean, and it's very anxiety ridden because as you keep going, as it keeps going on, at first you have some distance to the water, but then the water gets closer and closer until it starts to actually fill and slosh around the camera, and you feel like you're drowning, which is one of the main themes of the album, is drowning. You know, that's Thom Yorke loves talking about drowning, but a lot of it's about the ocean and about drowning and about the sense of drowning and about all that in the ocean. And this is a very unsettling, very uncomfortable video that I think is supposed to emphasize the sense of the song and what they're singing about, which is that we are all essentially, with global warming, we are headed into water world, like literally water world, okay? And we're on the boat, and we're looking out the porthole, and we're getting subsumed, and we know we're going to drown, but we can't do anything except for look out the porthole and be sort of like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. That's sort of beautiful. That's kind of terrifying. That's what we are. Next track is called Bugging Out Again. Can I tell you why I love Bugging Out Again? It's my least favorite song, but every time I hear it, I like it twice as much as I did before, which means it's gonna succumb to what I call the spinning plates rule, which is, you know, Spinning Plates, just like Spinning Plates by Radiohead, might be my favorite Radiohead song. I mean, right up there. 4-Minute Warning, Spinning Plates, the entire In Rainbows album, anyways, I love Radiohead. But oh my God, I hated Spinning Plates when I first heard it. I was like, I'm like, what is this snarfy madness? And now I absolutely love it. So I think this might just be too subtle for me. I just love how cinematically calm it is. I love the atmosphere of it the more I listen to it. And these lyrics about breaking the mold that made me. The molds, again. So apparently, Thom Yorke, Jonathan Zawada, and Mark Pritchard, Pritchard Bud, they would do stuff together. And like they would send parts of the song to Zawada, and Zawada would send them images backwards. I think they're playing together. I think they're working on this all together, because talking about the mold, because there is a mold. There was a mold for the thinker, okay? There was a mold for the thinker. There's no need to pretend I'm bugging out again, a designated shelter if that's the only way. Again, we just need to think about the parext here. We need to think about, wait, how do I go forward? This is the image of the guy, the Birdman, as the most animated, interesting imagery, where he's going to multiple images of molds and creation of people, and sort of a great mother pouring life into buckets. And it's essentially a parable about existence and the way that this guy, this little Birdman, is walking through life, as we all do, unsure and unclear and a little bit scared. And then he melts into the desert. As he walks, he just melts into the desert. Then we get to the song Back in the Game. This was the first single, the catchiest song. Almost reminds me of Burn the Witch style song with the kind of like stabbing strings. And then it just becomes, listen. Newsflash, Daft Punk was a great band. Second newsflash, the Tron soundtrack is like some of their best work. This reminds me so much of the song End of Line. Oh man, man, that's a top 5 Daft Punk song right there. End of Line. Whew, it's great. And this reminds me a lot of that. I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know if it's like not cool when you're talking about electronic music to talk about Daft Punk, because it's like, oh my God, you're so basic. You think that Daft Punk is EDM? They're just pop. Someone said that to me once. No, they didn't, but they could have. That's a fake story that could be real, okay? I'm going to start it over again and pretend like someone actually said it. One time I was at a record store, and I asked for the EDM section because I wanted to see if they had the Daft Punk, the Tron Legacy soundtrack, and I said, I love it. And the guy's like, do you like EDM? And I said, yeah, I like EDM. Then you probably shouldn't be buying Daft Punk because that's pop. Okay, that didn't happen, but it could have happened, okay? I don't know if it's working or not. Did that happen? Is this a real backdrop, by the way? Is this like some kind of weird AI thing that I'm using, or some kind of like Zoom background? Because it seems unreal. It really does seem unreal. What's up with these colors behind me? The most easily digested song on the album has kind of like a badass bass drop and like a arena rock. But it's beautiful. It's just a really well-made song with these. And I don't know if the song's about Trump, or about sobriety, or about the world. Have you missed me? How you been? Back in 2020 again. I don't know. I mean, it seemed to me like it's about the re-election of Donald Trump. Back to my old tricks again, tight structure, pills for pain. But then it feels like it might be about sobriety. And he talks about sucking on lemons all over again. To me, this feels like it's more about the sort of recidivism. It's about recidivism. Jesus Christ, it's about all those things at once, Skye. Are you an art history guy or not? Are you a professor? If a professor ever asks you, is it A, B, or C? The answer is always it's A, B, and C. It's about all three things. It's about the recidivism of society as echoed by the recidivism of an addict. That we are returning to 2020. We are returning to our lowest selves. We are returning to our most base, angry, tribalistic, self-destructive, isolated instincts, the same way that an addict will go back to the bottle. The same way that Thom Yorke will go back to sucking on lemons like it's 2000. And hey, speaking of parext, here's an important one. We got this. We got this going on here, right? I mean, we have these sort of like really unsettling faces in this whole video where it's like this, I don't know, almost like AI parade. How are these things not AI? How? Like, can you tell me? How in the world are these things not AI? It makes no sense. I think they are, or they're not. Or it doesn't matter, because if they are, then it's intentional. And if they're not, it's a great imitation, because that's how it feels to watch AI. Then we get to maybe my other favorite song on the album, The White Cliffs. This gorgeous waltz. The drums here are kind of 5 years like David Bowie. Opening track off of Ziggy Stardust from and the Spiders from Mars. Sometimes David Bowie, because he's so flamboyant and he's such a rock star, and he's able to write such anthemic songs, and then he's able to write songs as beautiful and moving as 5 years. And it's just not fair. It's not fair. It is not fair how good David Bowie is. You can't be that handsome, that charismatic, and that soulful as a song like 5 years. Anyways, that's what this drum line reminds me of. Kind of shuffles along. His voice is haunting and wonderful. I'm feeling the same cold room every now and then. The way he sings every now and then, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is some of my favorite Thom Yorke vocal performance. Just the singing of the song every now and then. Wait, is that in reference to the Beatles song Now and Then, which was using AI and is kind of uncanny and is fake and real at the same time? Is it? I don't know. I just thought of that right now. And then some of his best lyrics on the album. Please don't look, but you're drowning. Drowning is a huge theme here. We're drowning in AI slop. We are drowning in the rising ocean levels. We are drowning in climate change. We are drowning in political division. This is your punishment, a small mind with a plaything, a tiny little wren. That's the imagery, right? So what came first? What came first? Jonathan Zawada's image of the little wren with the hat walking around, or this lyric, which then made Jonathan Zawada make the tiny little wren? We don't know, because this is a three-headed monster album. This is three people working together. Everything's out of your hands, blow, whistle, blow. Just great Thom Yorke pre-made lyrics. And it all matches this video perfectly. Now, this is maybe the easiest video to watch. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is... Hey, what if I go over here? Oh, Jesus, no. It's just still image. I mean, it's just short images of the world. It is little vignettes. I'm going to take this off because this is not that actually telling of an image. But the video is so important because it is very clearly, I think, in reference to a movie called Koyaanisqatsi, which I watched when I was a young boy and confused the hell out of me, but helped to shape my understanding of what art was. So Koyaanisqatsi is a movie by a guy named Godfrey Reggio with music by Philip Glass, and it's a non-narrative movie with just beautiful filming of modern life and nature. And Koyaanisqatsi is a Hopi word that means life out of balance. The theme is about how industrialization and civilization is at odds with the beauty of nature. And there'll be just these long shots of just something beautiful in nature and then something gross and disgusting, like, I don't know, the Las Vegas Strip in 1979. And it's all filmed with this huge gravitas and this feeling, and it goes along with the music by Philip Glass. Okay, it goes beautifully, even better than that. And this just feels to me like this is their Koyaanisqatsi, which is great because we need more Koyaanisqatsi. It's all done really beautifully. I watched this with my 2-year-old, which is the best way to watch anything like that because she doesn't understand the greater commentary on the life being out of balance. She just would point at things and say what they are. Animals, airplane. This is very funny. All these imagery that they're using, like soccer pitches from above, industrial sites, loading an airplane, cars in the snow. Do you know, by the way, the cars in the snow, they are from Quebec. There's a scene where there are cars in the snow, and you can tell it's in Quebec because the stop sign says arrête. And the only place in the world where stop signs are in French is in Quebec, not even in France. More commentary from my daughter while watching this. It's dark when they see streetlights. Bicycles at some motocross. A tree. Animals. Trees. It's snowing. A house. It's very funny. There's some commentary maybe of some like wildebeests migrating, or maybe sheep migrating, that maybe we have to start migrating because we're destroying the earth. I don't know. And then we get to the song The Spirit, another inspirational sounding automated high synthesizer, just so subtle and so rich. I am nobody's fool. I like these lyrics. Sorry, I can smell the lilacs over there. We have one lilac tree and it happens to be blooming. Do you want to see it? It's over there. That's the lilac tree. The wind blew in and I was able to smell the lilacs. It was absolutely gorgeous. I want to share that with you. So I can't quite tell if this is him singing in how he feels, like he's really trying to keep the spirit alive in a time of danger, or if he is singing from the perspective of an angry little man. So like, I am nobody's fool is a defensive posture. Usually when Thom Yorke is singing like that, he is singing from the perspective of somebody who is a problem, somebody who is causing trouble in the world and causing misery. And even this like, all will be revealed. This sounds like the Papa John's pizza guy. All will be revealed. I had 55 pizzas in 42 days, and all will be revealed in time. You'll see. So I can't quite tell. But I can tell you that when he says, I'll keep the spirit alive, I can't read that ironically. I can't read that in any other way other than just feeling like the warmth of that. I feel warmth in it. I don't feel like this is a cynical song. Also reminds me of the great song, Keep My Spirit Alive, off of Donda with KC. And no, I'm not going to talk about the new Kanye West song. Stop asking me. Some things don't deserve nuance. I'm sorry to say. I have so many nuanced takes on that song, but it doesn't earn it. It just does not earn the nuance. I've never said that. I've never said that before. But those of you who are watching this angrily thinking, why am I not talking about Billy Woods yet? I'm getting there. Give me a second. There's too much good art. Is it my fault there's too much good art out there? But it's a beautiful song, and I think it's the defiance of the album. The video itself is beautiful. It has this image of this rowing skeleton, and it's in black and white, and all these weird sort of like colorful figures jump up on the boat and throw off the balance. Okay, so they make the balance like too high or too low, and you think that the skeleton is going to kick these things away and push them away and try to hurt them, but he doesn't. He just dances around. Whoop-diddly, whoop-diddly. He's just dancing around on the edge of the boat, and it's a very beautiful image. It's a very beautiful image. I almost said that like like Michael Caine. It's a very beautiful image. It's a beautiful image indeed, Mr. Wayne. And then eventually the things turn into, the colorful things turn into like a mylar bag and float away, and the skeleton turns into bones. And we're reminded this is very much, a lot of this album is about like shipwrecks and about being subsumed by the ocean. And the ocean can be death, or the ocean can be human ignorance and stupidity that is plunging us all towards death. Pick one. I don't care. They both work quite well in the context of this album. Yeah, I was thinking about shipwrecks, by the way. It's messed up that we go looking for shipwrecks. That meant that like somebody died, right? Like somebody died a horrible, miserable death. And we're like, I wonder if we can find some treasure. You know, when you think about the human cost of a shipwreck, you think about people frantically trying to figure out how to get onto a lifeboat that's going to go nowhere, and the waves are going in, and like children are like drowning to death, and humans are sitting there gasping their last breath. And we had this image of like searching around and trying to find lost gold. You know, like imagine if every plane crash was like, you know, people just went to plane crash sites and were like, oh, wow, maybe somebody left a wallet full of money. Anyways, we'll talk more about shipwrecks later. Shipwreck? That's the song off of Mode Selector with Thom Yorke. He's been talking about shipwreck and EDM songs for over a decade. Man, that, I got to tell you, that was not part of my notes. I just thought of that. Life goes where it goes. I'll keep the spirit alive. I wish you well. Pray for peace. For your soul upon a journey. The shadows around your eyes. I keep the spirit alive. Before it's all forgot. Fluids and oxygen. I think it's a song. It's an existentialist song. You know, I think it's about how we're just fluids and oxygen. That's all that we are as human beings. And keeping the spirit alive and wishing you well. Praying for peace. That like we can hope to do the best we can possibly do. But we are eventually all going to be bones at the bottom of an ocean. Probably. Unless our bones disappear by then. It's a nice Sunday morning. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Next song is called Gangstas. Super awesome bloop and bleep rad video game sound here. This is the Podvavi dance. These layers come in, automated rhythms, and these crazy dissolving Doppler sounds. And we are golden bright gangsters. One by one they arrive, playing games, chewing glass, staying in the best hotels. Just awesome, just super upbeat. Kind of need this because we got sort of, we get somewhat a little bit low here. The imagery on this is, again, in that, how is this not AI? Is it AI? Does it matter if it is AI or not? There's these characters. There's this part of Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, where you are in this thing called the Spirit Temple, or the Temple of Time, I think it is. And you go forward in time, and all of a sudden, there's like all these weird things called redeads that like jump onto you, and they go... This is horrible, horrible thing. This whole little village scene is like that. We have all these, it's very Boschian. It's very Hieronymus Boschian, because in a similar way, instead of it being a cohesive thing that you can read, there are figures in a hellish landscape interacting in ways that are weird and don't quite make sense. Like, you can read them, but they don't quite make sense. Like, hey, why is that person a chair? Why is that person a table? Why are those people pushing each other? It's great. And people fighting over a fish. How is it not AI? You count fingers to figure out if stuff is AI. And it starts off with one finger, with someone making a sculpture of... Oh, my God. And then we get to this conversation is missing your voice, which has this badass programmed drumline claps. And when I first heard it, I was kind of like, how come I end up where I started? How come I end up where I began? The song 15 Step, the song where somebody... what happened was Philip Selway drank almost all of the oat milk in the studio when they were making In Rainbows. He drank so they had like a full carton of oat milk, and he drank everything except for the last sip. And Thom goes in and he's like thinking he's gonna have a big old glass of oat milk, right? And he pours it, it's basically empty. And so he goes, I'm gonna make the most annoying song that any drummer will ever have to play with. I'm going to write 15 Step. So the song itself is just an exercise in sadism against drummers. Great song though. That's a true story. Look it up. I'm a faker. But that's the energy that this has, that kind of frantic energy. I was listening to this during the pancake test, and my 17-year-old daughter was in the other room, and she just goes, I stay up way too late. And because it's also the Shake It Off drum line, kind of like that. He does this kind of high lotus flower style singing, his sort of... when he sings like that, got some crows in the background there, an opportunist state of mind, give me something, TV Eyes. That might be a Stooges reference. TV Eyes is a song by the Stooges. TV stands for twat vibe. Look it up. That is true. The oat milk story I made up, but that is true. In need of some attention, and yes, I mind, and I can't handle cutting from the chest down. Why don't you tell me what is bothering you? This conversation is missing your voice. I love this title. This is going back to the Thom Yorke bag of tricks of finding sentences that are not cliches, but that are things that you've heard multiple times, and then recontextualizing them to help you understand the alienating nature in which we form thoughts and communicate. How many pre-made sentences, how many, things like put a pin in it. We'll circle back to it. This conversation is missing your voice. This kind of weird business speech. I've had 2 kids who have taken economics in high school. I gave them both the assignment, write a Thom Yorke song just using terms from your economics class, and none of them have done it. And then at a certain point, it breaks into a funhouse version of Jesus Christ Superstar. Dun, 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 dun. The video itself is just following all these packages on a conveyor belt, which is an interesting idea. I think that's a Stanley Donwood right there. It gets sort of increasingly artistic, and again, it's talking about the nature of life and automation, and makes sense with the world that we're in, and then it becomes something beautiful as all the packages go out into space. Then we get to the song Tall Tales. Horrific siren sound, and this Geiger counter, and this metallic, angry waves. Sorry, I'm just making sure I'm actually still recording. And all these sounds of people talking, overlapping and unclear. Reminds me of that song by Velvet Underground, where they just talk a lot. Tell me in the comments what song that is where they talk a lot. Is it like European Sons? Anyways. It's also kind of David Lynchian. I assume that, like many people, they were reminded to revisit the work of David Lynch, and the way that the sounds go backwards and forwards and are double layered reminded me a lot of like sometimes my arms bend back. And actually, these lyrics, these words, when I was in high school, like, you create a lot of like inside jokes with your friends, and often it would be like from music, like little things you hear in music. Doggy dropped it. All my Butthole Surfers fans, you know what I'm saying. Doggy dropped it. It's the kind of stuff we'd say. If I was in high school and this album came out, I'd be saying this all the time. Get inside and close the curtains. like just all these lyrics, just denial and stunned silence. It's just the way that these songs, the way that this like weird woman's voice comes through is the kind of thing we'd say. And then in the middle of everything, there's a Dies Irae. Dun, 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 dun. And if you don't know what that sounds from, it's from medieval death mass. So when people would die, they would play a song that goes along with it. And went dun 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 dun. Now Berlioz would use that in his Symphonie Fantastique, which would then go on to be used and basically sampled in the soundtrack to the movie The Shining. So if you're listening to the song and you go, "Oh my God, bro, they're copying The Shining," they're actually copying Berlioz, who himself was quoting a melody that has just been associated with death for like 700 years. Is hardwired into our existence to hear dun, 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 dun. There's a good Vox video on the topic. There's also some good scholarship by a guy named Alex Ludwig at the Berkeley University of Music. So check that out. He wrote a book about it, and it's all about the history of Dies Irae in movies because it is the shorthand for death. That's dun, dun, dun. It's also when Luke goes back to the homestead and sees his aunt and uncle burnt to death. That's what's playing in the background. Dun, dun, dun. John Williams knew that. We all know that. We all know that. And so that's in the middle of this. So this is a lot of this album's about death and about feeling like we're all dying and in the sense and what is the purpose of existence. And for me, this was the opening. This was the first song I heard off this album because I started by watching the movie. And this is... That's the image. It's this lighthouse that's just over and over again. Hey, what if I made this smaller? Oh, wait though. Does that mean is that all you can see? I don't know how to do this. All right, I'm just going to put this back. This is scaring me. So like this lighthouse was the first thing I saw, and it was this image. And I think it's super important. This lighthouse image and lighthouse imagery in general, because a lighthouse is this great symbol of humanity trying to protect itself from the waves of death and the waves of human stupidity that are overwhelming us. And maybe those things are the same thing. Sorry if I keep changing the image. I don't know what I'm doing with this video program, so you're just going to have to stick with me. And in the zine, they actually talk about lighthouses. Quote, "It is neither a public good. Lighthouses are neither a public good nor a private one. Lighthouses historically existed somewhere between. No one ever got rich building a lighthouse, but plenty of people became richer because of them. Historically, like Charnes Obel, a toll that would be charged to ships that passed a lighthouse through this way, though this way was inherently difficult to enforce, which made motivating their construction a tricky proposition." How beautiful is this? What is the what is the financial incentive to building a lighthouse, right? There is none. Why do we build lighthouses? Because we don't want people to drown to death and have all of our stuff fall to the bottom of the ocean for treasure hunters. Like, why do we have lighthouses? What's the function of lighthouses? They are not a private good. You can't make money off of a lighthouse, yet we have them. Why do they exist? Isn't it amazing? Have you thought about that? That there's no way to make money off of a lighthouse? I haven't, because we're living in a time right now where if you cannot make money off of something, we do not do it. We are coming to a time now where we literally consider everything through the profit. The American post office is in trouble, and public television is in trouble because they're not making money, and they're not supposed to make money. They're supposed to be a public good. There's more to life than money. There's more good than money. Sometimes public good costs public dollars, but it's not designed to make more public dollars. That's not something that could possibly be understood. We need more lighthouses, and we have less lighthouses. And even if we have lighthouses, we're still all going to drown and die at the bottom of the ocean. Coming up next is Happy Days. It's a cover of the theme song to the TV show Happy Days. I get one bad joke. I just spent it. It's not. It's a happy march, kind of a offbeat synthesizer. It's almost kind of Gorillaz-y, Sunshine in a Bag song. Remember that one? High and low voices and spooky and very catchy opening. Drowning in the deep blue sea. I'm telling you, we're all drowning in this album. We're all drowning. I don't know if we're drowning because of global warming or if we're drowning because of human stupidity, but it doesn't really matter because there's the existential threat, which is what exists over all of us over all time, and then there's the specific threat of this time. And this album, this whole piece of work, this unified by 3 different people is reminding us of this fact. Don't make a sound, they'll hear you. We have reviewed your accounts and discovered an error, a significant amount. This is the new figure, which must be paid immediately, along with all respective interest and fines. Thom Yorke is great at describing the dehumanizing nature of modern speech and life and just happy days. Kind of, it's almost like, it's not even cinematic. It's more like Bugs Bunny. It's like Looney Tunes. Death and taxes. It's a great mixture of happy and unhappy, unhappy and happy, happy songs with miserable themes. Which is like what we see here with this little figure who's drowning in this weird post-war scene of all these boys playing in the rubble of a bombed-out British town. The Men Who Dance in Stag Heads has this like accordion sound and then a simple tight drum beat. This is, in the history of Thom Yorke's voice being recorded, the most earnest I have ever heard him sound. He is just kind of talking. It actually reminds me strongly of one of my favorite albums of the 90s. You might be thinking, Skye, what's one of your favorite albums of the 90s? I'm going to say something. Zooropa by U2, first of all, is the best U2 album. Second of all, truly is one of the best albums of the 90s. Way ahead of its time. Super well made. I'm not like a U2 guy. I've never seen them in concert. I own like 4 U2 albums. Joshua Tree is like fine, but like it's overplayed. I don't know, I grew up, but like Zooropa is just an amazing album. And there's a song on there called The Wanderer with Johnny Cash talking over this great Brian Eno produced kind of beat. This feels to me like a modern version of The Wanderer, with Thom Yorke kind of talking. First come in the shadows and then the dirt from what they stole and what they borrowed, the wild and red and the half mad, and you forever chained, you and yours. They bet $1 and pay no taxes. Go back in the box now to the gallows pole. The sun has gone out. The son of the old boss, the never changed, ne'er-do-well. We sign their papers. We line their pockets. You should leave now. The men who dance. You should leave now in stags' heads. That this is the image that we have of the world, right? Like, who controls everything? We have this image of like the Illuminati and men dancing in stags' heads, right? We had this image of like but all the ghouls, they're right there. They're going up to space with Katy Perry. The ghouls are right there. They pay no taxes. And they take from us. And we sign their papers and we line their pockets. It is a very straightforward song about the powerlessness that we have, how dominated we are by the 1%, how much we just serve these cartoonishly evil people who, okay, now they've started like sea-hiling in public. But before, like, they weren't even that clear how evil they were. And they're the men in stags' heads. The video itself, again, is kind of interesting because we had this image of this coin, which looks sort of like a Picasso plate, actually. But the coin is sort of rolling, and then we have this shoreline, and we have the fish with smaller fish inside of it. And I think that's an important image because, we talk about big fish eating smaller fish. That's like one of the principles of capitalism. And then kind of on top of that, there's like this weird, like, AI goat skeleton. It's hard to read. There's this drone in of an oil rig. He's obsessed with oil rigs. Thom Yorke is. Think about like Bloom off of King of Limbs, which is all about the deep horizon oil spill, all that. But there's a face underneath. It's like a face underneath the oil rig. There's an octopus all over a king's crown because we're gonna all be in shipwrecks. We're all gonna be in shipwrecks. We're all gonna be in the bottom of the ocean, and even the greatest crown in the world will just be covered up by an octopus. The album ends with Wandering Genie, which has this full instrumental with a breathy voice. The video, is just very simple. The imagery is very simple. With just kind of these nice pastels coming in and out with these small figures, kind of hopeful. And that's that. That's that album. As the crow reminds me, I have to go take care of my 2-year-old. I'm going to go get a latte for my wife for Mother's Day. We don't get fancy coffee very often, so I'm going to get her a latte. But I have to figure out, should I get a large? Because that has 2 shots of espresso. She wants I don't know, large or medium. I can't tell. So what did you think of this album? Did you like it? Do you get it? Have you watched the video? This is the best thing I think you can be as a great artist is a great collaborator. It's awesome to be an individual, but to know how to collaborate and collaborate with interesting people. This man, I've been thinking, sometimes I think about what would I do if I ever met, the famous people who I love so much. I've been having imaginary conversations with Neil Young since 1992. Okay? I'm going to thank him for the song Transformer Man, by the way. That's what I decided. I'm just going to say thank you for that song and then walk away. Just like a thing that maybe he doesn't get all the time, but just make sure he understands that, I get that song, and that meant a lot to me. I would say to him, hey, thanks for turning me on to Robert Wyatt. Thanks for turning me on to Mode Selector. Thanks for being somebody who helps push me in good musical directions. More than just his music moving me, he's helping to curate and guide people. He's using his power for good. My final request to you is, why do people say he's a bad guy? Every time I talk about him, I go, bro, how can you talk about Thom Yorke? Well, why? What did he? I don't know. I'm not on Twitter because, it's bad. So you tell me though. I don't know. Seems like an okay guy to me. All right. Until next time, then. There's the camera. I sure hope to God this all works with all my weird camera stuff.